In front of me today is a Roland Fantom-08. Roland released this last year, and this is the instrument I'm now using myself when I'm going out gigging, and I haven't done a video of it yet. So today we're going to take care of some unfinished business and bring to you my thoughts on the Fantom-08. I moved from a Roland RD2000 to this machine, and I'm going to share with you the reasons I did that. I'm also going to share with you why I happen to think this is probably the highest value 88 note workstation on the market today. So firstly, why the change? Well, the RD2000 was a great machine. I love the fact that it had a wooden action, but more to the point, when I was trying it, it just felt the best to me of anything that was currently out there and available. Now, there's always a downside when it comes to actions which feel amazing and replicate acoustic pianos really well, and it's usually in the form of weight. And the RD2000, for two reasons, was a particularly heavy machine. One was definitely the fact that it had that extended key length and just the heavier action mechanism overall. But the second was that the RD2000 was built like a total tank. You were talking about a really hefty wooden underframe, and the entire thing was cased in steel. So as much as I loved that action, the weight was killing me. Second reason, I originally got the RD2000 because of the V-piano engine and the fact that I wanted a ton of sounds available to me on that machine, with the ability to do some live mixing with all of those tactile faders and the great controls that the RD2000 had. But as time wore on, it didn't have a couple of things that I found that I really actually wanted. One of them may seem odd, but an arpeggiator. Second was that it had a very limited capacity to do any form of recording. And forget sequencing. I knew that what I was missing was that kind of creative tactile connection with an instrument that you can really sort of build a song or a track or even just a loop or a groove on. And so between those two factors, the fact that it was really kind of too heavy for what I wanted, and it was missing a number of features that I've found that I was creatively kind of yearning for, I made the move. The first thing I'm going to do is list all the things that stand out to me as being exceptional or super high value about this instrument. One is the weight. When you're spending this much on an instrument, I'm not typically throwing it on the ground or tipping it over or treating it so badly to the fact that a nice hardened plastic like this is going to be that much different an ownership experience than, say, the steel case. So the casing to me was a non-factor. Second was the keys. Now this is using a PHA-4 action. This is the same action that Roland puts in a lot of its mid-range product, and I've used it a lot. I quite like it, and even though I do feel like there's a slight difference in the level of nuance I can get out of a PHA-50 versus this, for 95% of the playing that I was doing, I found this to be just as musically connective for me as the PHA-50. So between the action giving some weight savings and the case giving some weight savings, that's what's making this so light. And this is barely heavier than an FP30X. Next thing I love about this is the fact that we've got a high resolution touchscreen control center or control surface. It's highly intuitive, it's really been well designed, and even though this is shrunk down from what the full size Fantom offers, I don't really notice much of a difference in terms of usability. Next on the list for me was the kind of their supernatural organ tone wheel simulator. Once I figured out how to access it. It's a little funky, but you can only get to it on track 2, and I know that's in the instruction manual, and if I hadn't been so stubborn and waited so long to look it up in the instruction manual, maybe it wouldn't have been so frustrating. But anyway, you have to be on track 2 in order to access it. Otherwise, it's just not, you can't find it anywhere. So once you're on track 2, being able to fire that organ up, and you can see the VTW, the virtual tone wheel, then you can hit your parameters keys, and here you are. You're right into a totally visual, and you can interface, and you can control that entirely with the sliders if that's what you prefer. But you can also do it right on the screen. And the default is set up so that your X toggle here will turn the Leslie on and off exactly where the Leslie switch usually is on a Hammond. So and you've got overdrive control right there. And you've got rotary control, all of that. So I love the fact that I had a nice, clear control center to work with the organ, because I do use that quite a bit on certain gigs. Next is the sheer number of tones that are available on here. And remember, there's multiple tone engines going on under the surface. You've got the zen-core tone engine, but you've also got supernatural tone engine for certain sound categories, such as the acoustic piano, which means that this is loaded up with thousands. I think it's like close to 3,000 sounds that come by default. But then you've got the whole Roland cloud, where you can download even more packs directly onto your machine. And the way in which you access it is really straightforward. Essentially, whatever zone you want to be on, 1 through 16, as long as you're highlighted on that zone, you can just press whatever category you want over here, and you're straight into selecting. You can also press enter, will get you to the same place in terms of opening up your tone options, and then you can just pick another one or select a different one. Next, there's only really one operating mode that this thing is in. It's basically constantly in a 16 zone scene mode that always has access to the sequencer, always has access to the multifunction pad, always has access to the same effects. So there's just one mode. It's basically modeless play. The next portion of that, which is going to really appeal to certain users, is going to be the synth control. Because this is zen-core, it means that every patch is basically made up of 4 independent oscillator components. And every one of those oscillators has a full set of filters and LFOs and amp settings and all kinds of things that can be applied to it. So there's not going to be much going on with the concert grand because it is a supernatural sound, and they kind of had that locked off in this machine. You can't really go and edit the supernatural setting. It's basically pre-built. I'll get to that in a second. But if we pick something that is a zen-core sound, once you're in something like that, now you can actually get into the zen-core engine, which you can see on the screen right now. And you can see that this is using 2 partials, 1 and 2. You've got your wave group, your wave bank. You can, call it. So basically, what's the source sample that it is using? And that's either going to be an oscillator or a sample. In this case, it's a sample. You've got your pitch control, your pitch envelope, all of your filters that you can apply, and this can be per partial. So it really is a completely editable, programmable soft synth on here. So the amount of power, synthesizing power you have on this machine is pretty extraordinary, because you can have 4 partials per patch. You can have 16 patches loaded up. So you're talking about 64 partials that can be basically sounding at any given time on this thing. It gets pretty thick pretty quickly. It's pretty cool. Next thing is the assignable pad. If you go to pad mode, you've got lots of different options for what to assign to this pad. You can have it be a sample pad, which is what is there by default. So they've actually got this set up so that each column is essentially a new part that you can use to create sort of a jam. So if we do this, you can also use it as a notepad, which I guess normally you'd use that assigned to a drum set, but you could assign anything to it at all. Then you've got the ability to use that to control your rhythm pattern, which I do quite a bit, and also your zone solo or your zone play or your pattern play. I use all of that stuff, especially when you're pairing it up to control the sequencer. And the pattern sequencer is what we're going to get to next. So I'm not going to spend too much time on this because, of course, this could be like an hour video just on its own, how to use and tips and tricks surrounding the sequencer. But here in a nutshell is how it works. So let's say we want to lay something down on track 1 in the A cell. So here we go. So we've got a couple of options. We've got the classic TR record, kind of like a drum pattern-esque type of approach. Step record if we don't want to do this in time, but I almost always do this in time, so I'll do that. We're not going to use any kind of a rhythm sync right now, and we don't want to have the loop record switch on, so this is essentially just going to record me once and then stop recording, and we're going to set this for 4 bars in length, and we are 4/4, so, and we're going to do a count in of 1 measure. So here we go. And because we said that we weren't going to do any loop recording, it just automatically stopped after bar 4. And I can start and stop that cell simply by pressing that cell, which is pretty cool. Now let's say I want to record another, a different one in the same instrument, but sort of a slightly busier approach. So let's do the same thing. So you can see that it's playing only 1 cell at once that's on track 1, but I could record up to 8 different combinations. So if we go over here to bass, get some level there, and we'll do the same thing. Moving on to the next cell, and again, it will be a little more active here. And now let's say that we want to lay down a rhythm. And so we're going to go over here to track 10. We're going to go in here. And this is a little odd. Rhythm sync, or rhythm record rather, is only going to work on track 10. So if you want to use these pre-recorded rhythm patterns, which we do, you can only lay those down on track 10. So we'll go over here. So we've got rhythm pattern up here. We're going to go back over there. We'll turn our rhythm sync on. So now if we go back into our pattern, we've got our options here. So let's say we want to start here. And let's bring in the drums. So you get the idea. Hopefully that delivers the concept of how these cells can work and how you can quickly build out a song, both to perform live, but as well, essentially when you get these groupings that you like, this is where you're seeing grouping and group. So you'd store that selected group, and then that becomes a grouping, and you can put these groupings in different order, and that's how you basically build the structure of your song. So there's a couple of things that took some getting used to with this instrument. One of them is how the effects are structured. The other one is the fact that I'm used to having more control over the acoustic piano sound. And so those were kind of pain points for me when I was first getting into this. Now that I'm there, I'm just hoping that anybody who's already using this instrument or thinking about using this instrument sees this and takes note, and I hope that I save you a little bit of emotional frustration right out of the gate. So the first thing is how these effects are structured. You have a master effect which is global. So this is something that is going to apply across all scenes, even when you're switching between scenes. So you've got master compression, you've got master EQ, and then you've got a master effect. Now, why is it not MFX? Well, because MFX as an abbreviation is already taken in the Roland lingo. That stands for multi-effect, and that's what sits on the zone level. So that's why it's like master effects, what's TFX? Well, it's actually just master effects. So you can turn on your master comp, your master EQ, and as I say, that is global. Then you've got your chorus and reverb, which is here in the chain. Then you've got your insert effects. Now these are scene specific, but they are not zone specific. So these are effects that you can send each zone to depending on the level that you want, such as the voice pitch shifter, modulation delay, all of that stuff. You can also select whether that's headed out to your mains or your sub outs. And then finally, you get to your zone effects, which is just specific to each zone. The second thing is because I was used to the Supernatural engine having lots of editability on other Roland instruments, I spent some time like hunting around for ways to edit the acoustic piano tones. And what I finally figured out is that there's very little editability that you've got in terms of the actual guts of how the Supernatural engine is working, which at first kind of annoyed me until I realized what they were doing. They have really just given you every possible permutation of what that Supernatural engine is going to sound like. So there's dozens and dozens of different Supernatural acoustic piano tones in there, and a lot of them are fantastic. So it's more a matter of just finding the preset that you love rather than landing on just a default and then trying to edit from there. So my hope with this video is that I have given you an overview of the big chunks of what this can really do. But really, we've only scratched the surface. For example, we didn't even really touch on the sampling capabilities that it has. But here is the takeaway that I'd like everybody to leave this video with, is first of all, the value of this instrument is extraordinary. Considering its price point and everything that it's doing is really hard to beat in the marketplace right now. But the second big thing for me that I realized when shopping for this originally was just how close the Fantom-08 gets to the full Fantom-08 in terms of functionality at less than half the price. Anyway, thank you so much for joining us for another video here on the Merriam Pianos YouTube channel. My name is Stu Harrison. Please let us know what you thought of this in the comments. We'd love to have you back for more videos. Join our community, hit that subscribe notification bell, and we'll see you again soon.